Whoa, what the hell? Every once in a while, a game comes along that you didn't know about and you figure out about it at release date. Well, that game for me is Mount & Blade Napoleonic Wars, which is a DLC expansion. I'm freaking addicted. I played all night long. I'm sure you're probably surprised with my love for the era. When you think of Angry Joe, you don't necessarily think of 19th century warfare, but I love it. I've always loved it. So when you think of Angry Joe, think of warfare.
When you think of garbage, think of Akeem.
If you've seen the Empire Total War video or the Napoleon Total War review, you know. Now I bid you good day.
But my lord.
I said good day! That type of warfare just fascinates me. So how does that translate into a game? Well, having to reload for a few seconds and then having horribly inaccurate weapons is immensely suspenseful. Especially when you only have one life in battle mode. Teamwork is key. Now, since I'm talking about this new DLC expansion, it's probably a good time to bring you up to date with the rest of the Mount & Blade series. What is it? Well, basically, it's the best and most realistic medieval combat simulator out there. It's a budget game that doesn't cost that much and packs a ton of content. Yeah, it's a little rough around the edges, but it has so much charm. Now, the original Mount & Blade came out in 2008. It was just a single-player sandbox type game where you can gather up NPC troop followers, build an army, go on simple quests. Like an RPG-like experience and then eventually conquer all of the map. It was an immersive and sometimes brutal and unforgiving game, but that's just like it was in medieval times. You actually felt as if you were a Lord Knight in medieval ages. Now, Mount & Blade Warband came out in 2010. And along with adding a new faction, making various improvements and updates to the game, it added multiplayer for 64 players, later up to 200 players per server. All that in 8 different game modes that included sieges and full battles. Now this revolutionized the game and multiplayer came the default mode to play. It was a huge success, with people from all over the world hacking and slashing at each other, ducking at the sound of arrows, and running down their enemies on horseback. Now the next expansion with Fire and Sword released in 2011. Now it focused more on story and the single player experience, taking characters from the historical novel. And the period of the game is set later, introducing such innovations as the simple pistol, grenades, and other post-medieval weaponry. At the heart of what made the game so successful and created this devoted fan base is this simple to learn yet difficult to master combat system. Mounted combat is incredibly satisfying with the correct momentum. Riding faster and swinging your sword will do more damage to your target than if you were just stationary taking swipes at him. Now on foot you can block and parry in the 4 directions, up, down, left, right, as you watch for visual cues from your enemy and try to predict his moves. Now over time, like I said, the game developed an incredible following, including a modding community. These guys added tons of enhancements to the game. Graphics, gameplay, sounds, troop type, troop limit, even complete era conversions. In fact, before the newest expansion, Napoleonic Wars, was a community mod called Mount and Musket. Now Tell Worlds offers the official Napoleonic era expansion for only $10. And it is worth it. It includes upping the player count to an insane 250 players in these massive 19th century style warfare battles, with more than 220 unique units over 5 nations. Artillery pieces, destructible environments, constructible barricades from engineer classes. And of course, there's the thematic musician classes, with fifes, drums, trumpets, and even bagpipes. The game's soundtrack is composed of over 40 classical music songs, which I love, and it almost gives this game this deceptive, relaxing atmosphere. Sort of like a ballet of destruction. Though it is kind of weird to hear like the wedding music that we all know, or like the graduation theme, while you're like hacking somebody's face off, and you hear that music. Not exactly appropriate. They probably should have took that, at least that one out. So you start by creating your avatar, what your guy looks like, with several different simple sliders and facial hair. And don't be a wimp, okay? This is 19th century. You better give your guy facial hair. Big, bushy facial hair. Don't wimp out. Then you select a custom flag which displays over your head. And finally, you find the exact multiplayer server and mode that you want to play on and jump right in. In-game, you select a side, and then you have several tabs of the different types of units that you can be, which are extremely thematic and historically accurate. It's really cool to be a part of the Black Watch. And then you can even select a subclass within that, be it a rifler, the officer, the piper, all with their individual unique equipment and weapons. Now there are 8 modes. There's Capture the Flag, Deathmatch, and Team Deathmatch, and the Battlefield-like Conquest mode that we're all pretty much familiar with and don't need explanation. Now Battle mode is a last man standing mode, where you have one freaking life, and if you die, you're dead, even at the beginning of the game. Which increases the tension so much, especially when you're in the huge 200 people or more servers. It's like real warfare where you train all of your life, and then when you march into battle and you're one of the first to go, it's really frustrating and embarrassing, but oddly addicting. Siege has you defending a fort, and that's pretty difficult to do. Duel has you challenging another player to fight it out with pistols for your honor and to settle your differences like gentlemen.
My name is Jose Antonio. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Oh, well you, sir, have yourself a duel. How dare you, you British bastard! You colonial swine! You blockhead! Hamster! Simpleton! Stupid! Enough of this foolishness! We will have a duel! Yes, you shall!
And finally, there's the incredibly awesome Commander Battle, which combines bots and players to form actual line battles. You command your troops to move, fire, or follow your lead. This makes for those massive battles that we all know occurred in that time period, but yet giving a healthy dose of strategy into it. along with the option to always just take matters into your own hands in a bloody charge. As I said, the era surprisingly lends itself well to the combat mechanics that have made the Mount and Blade series so successful. Having to reload a weapon for a few seconds and then firing an incredibly inaccurate weapon, as I said, has this weird sort of allure, this rolling dice kind of addiction to it. And you will actually see on the battlefield players starting to form mini lines, working together to increase their accuracy and their power. And it's difficult to break these unless you coordinate with your cavalry guys to go break up that line. And I think that it's these limitations within the period's warfare that makes this game so fascinating and gives it its charm. You're adapting to them, working within them, discovering how to be successful all over again. There's plenty of atmosphere as musicians are intended to add passive bonuses to your team members. Presumably stuff like reloading faster, more accurate shots, and that sort of stuff, but currently in the build that I played, it was set to disabled, as the official enabled version was causing an immense amount of lag. But even in its disabled form, you would think, why would anybody want to play as a magician? But there are plenty of people out there that sport the drums and the flutes, and they do some pretty hilarious things. Me, myself, I prefer at the beginning of the game to find one of those drummers or those flute guys and then purposefully switch to walking slower to walk alongside them as we march into battle. Now, the game is in build 1.5, and it still does have some issues. These are being patched, but they need to be mentioned. A few bugs here and there, some frame rate issues, and some odd textures. Thankfully, Tale Worlds is quick in publishing its updates to the game. Make sure that your base core Mount and Blade game and the Napoleonic expansion have the latest patches. Otherwise, you're gonna be fighting in this crazy, wacky Candyland mirror universe. My only real gripe with the game, other than, the graphics, which has never really been strong in the Mount and Blade series, is the complete lack of a single player element. That's something that is sorely missed here, and it would have been awesome to see how they do it in this era. It's a huge disappointing element of the game that just leaves this huge gaping hole from what the fans are used to. However, if you were tired of the same old song and dance military first-person shooter, or you were ever a fan of miniature games or historical battles, you must buy and play this game. You will not regret it. Multiplayer is the preferred way to play this game anyway. Now, it may be harder to sell this game to a more mainstream audience, which is why I'm trying to shed some light on it. But think of it as a sort of first-person Empire Total War that didn't suck and was broken so badly. Putting you right down in the action really truly brings these battles to life. This must have been the way warfare was when people are role-playing and actually cooperating and forming lines. And that's something incredibly fascinating to see from both a gamer's perspective and a historical one. The final verdict for Mount and Blade Napoleonic Wars is a 7 out of 10. It is a great game. It has some performance issues right now, slightly dated graphics, and it suffers from not having that single player element. Those things sort of hold it back from a higher score. But in order to show you how incredibly fun some of these well-populated games and the massive battles are, I am issuing a badass seal of approval to the entire Mount and Blade franchise as a whole, just like I did with Mass Effect. And with the entire collection only $30 or less if you get it on sale, and the Napoleonic expansion being $10, there's really no reason for you not to try it out. And honestly, you don't even need that. All you really need is the Mount and Blade Warband game, and then whichever DLC expansion you think you like most. Give them a try. They are some of the best low-cost, high-value games out there right now. Until then, I'll see you guys on the next Angry Joe Show.
Ready! Eyes front! Out! Take ready! Take aim! Take aim! Fire! Enough of this foolishness!
How dare you end it when I'm supposed to end it?
Well, I
threw
figured
me
you were
off.
going to do it, so I would say enough of this, and then you would do
Let
the
me end
duel! You weren't ending it! You were beating me up!
Well, I was barely touching you. We were throwing
I
girl
heard,
fists.
Joey, I heard.
Are you ready?
It's your funeral.
Begin!